On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking a look at Herbie Hancock and Raul Midon performing I Just Called to Say I Love You. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, this request was sent in with a mind to determine whether this is auto-tuned or not, this particular performance. So what we're going to do is have a listen to it, and if you were watching a few months ago, maybe you can now hear auto-tune, or if you can't hear it, you'll certainly be able to see it on the pitch monitoring software. So I am going to be jumping into this, so if you want to watch the original performance, there's a link in the description below as always, so you can click on that. We'll get rid of the pitch monitoring software so that you guys can make up your own mind as to whether you think it's pitch corrected, auto-tuned, and then we'll jump into the analysis and find out. But let's have a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Herbie Hancock, joined by Raul Midon on vocals and guitar, and Greg Fillinganes on keyboards.
No New Year's Day to celebrate, no chocolate covered candy hearts to give away, no first of spring, no song to sing. In fact, it's just another ordinary day. No April rain, no flowers bloom, no wedding Saturday within the month of June. But what it is something true, made up of these three words that I must say to you. I just called to say I love you. I just called to say how much I care. I just called to say I love you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart.
I'm just going to jump in here. I love that when Raul starts getting into the mouth trumpet, which is actually listed as one of his instruments, but it's such an authentic sound that he's just making with his lips and his vocal cords. It sounds great. And just to address this question of auto-tune, pitch correction. What do you guys think? Now, if you're unsure, hopefully these vocal lines will be able to make it a little bit clearer for you, but let's have a look now. This is now plotting out Raul's voice on the right-hand side of the screen.
No new to celebrate. No chocolate covered candy hearts to give away. No first of spring, no song to sing. In fact, it's just another ordinary day.
So I'm going to jump in here, and the answer is that this has been auto-tuned in sections, and this is why it's interesting. It's almost like somebody is just switching it on and then switching it off. And let me point out a really important thing, that this wouldn't have been happening live. Raul isn't the kind of guy that will be using auto-tune live, and I've seen this in the comments section of this original video, that some people have mentioned. There's a guy in there that says, I'm a technician and I can tell you that this is auto-tuned, which is correct. And then people underneath have said, I've seen him live and he's definitely not using auto-tune. But when you watch performers like Raul live, they're not using auto-tune. It gets auto-tuned between the recording and being shown either on YouTube or TV, wherever the video is released. There's that middle point of post-production. Sadly, the first line of the song, because there's auto-tune on there, it's actually snapping Raul's vibrato to the semitone below, and it sounds a little bit weird, but we'll have a listen. Now we can see the vocal lines on screen as well.
No New Year's Day.
So straight away, we've got the G sharp 3 being snapped to the line, the C4 being snapped to the line, the C sharp 4 being snapped to the line, and then the vibrato is being snapped to the C4. And this is because with vibrato going, nah, there's a semitone beneath that, almost, it's not quite there, but the auto-tune is snapping it down to that semitone below. That's why it sounds a little bit weird. So when we play it in slow motion, and this is the isolated vocal by the way as well.
No New Year's Day.
You can hear that perfect. And it is just snapping down to the note. I mean, we can see here the C4 has been snapped to 3 times. So there's something trying to take that over. This is what happens on any digital audio workstation, or DAW as it's referred to. You can enable and disable a plugin on a track, and this is what it sounds like, that they've then disabled it on the track, on the vocal track in the DAW, on the last part of the vibrato. So they've been going through it and just allowing it and then disallowing it, enabling it, disabling it throughout the whole performance, and then mixed that down. And as we make our way through the performance, you'll see this common trend of being snapped to lines, and you'll also see where the plugin's been disabled on the track. So as we go forward, we're enabled here, again snapping to the lines, but then disabled here because now we're not being snapped to the note underneath, the E4, underneath the F4. So as we then take it forward, we'll see again enabled here, enabled, and we know that from looking at so many singers that this kind of thing just never happens, even with the best singers. 440 Hz tuning is not the most effective way of singing, and the best singers don't hit these lines. So it is probably the fact that Raul sounded better than this live, and that it's now making him sound mechanical because of the auto-tune. But if we just take it back and have a listen to these notes.
Candy hearts to give away.
Especially on the hearts there, you can actually hear it. If you are attuned to auto-tune and hearing the effect being enabled, you can hear it snapping the note. Just like that. If we do that in slow motion, we might actually hear it trying to work out the note it's supposed to be snapping to. Yeah, when na, it actually did semitones, and Raul is definitely not singing in semitones. He's just going ha, 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 and sliding up, not going ha, like that. It is a shame that this has been done because it's very much a jazz interpretation of the original song, and with jazz you want that freedom and you want to hear Raul's voice as it was on the night, but unfortunately we just don't get to hear that. When I say that we don't get to hear that, I mean for the whole performance, because there are notes here and there that are natural. And have a listen to this. You can see that that note there, the A sharp 3, is totally unaffected, so it's been disabled at this point because he's been allowed not only to vibrato naturally, so it means that it's just going to vary ever so slightly with the amount of pitch we're covering. It's not going to be snapped to notes now, and he descends. So he has this and just takes it down a little bit at the end, which is great because we get to hear a natural note. Just going through this now, it seems like we have a common trend of having the auto-tune switched on at the beginning of the phrase and then turned off for the last note, because exactly the same thing happens in this next phrase.
Another ordinary day.
So as you can see here, G sharp 4 snapped, F4 snapped, C sharp 4 snapped, last note, G sharp 3, vibrato slightly flat of the note, and again just naturally descending. And this is something that is just a trait of Raul's voice. He just naturally vibratos and sometimes descends with vibrato, and it's something you only notice when you're looking at vocal waves on the screen, but because there is this tendency, you should see it all the time, and you always know that something's auto-tuned when it's snapping to 440 hertz, because people don't sing in 440 hertz. So you know if we're hitting lines all the time, something is doing this to the voice. Just have a quick listen to this vocal phrase. Unfortunately there, we can see that the auto-tune is engaged because of this E4, and the run that happens immediately after this, the auto-tune snapped it to the wrong note. So it should be and the auto-tune makes it go so it's a semitone off. It snapped it because it's a quick vocal phrase. The auto-tune's just grabbed the note and put it actually on the wrong note. But let's have a little listen. It's going to sound a bit weird, but instead of na. So it's a shame. It should have gone down to the C4, but we can see it snapped it to the C sharp 4. And this is the problem with auto-tune, that it can't accept anything that is going to be between notes. So it will just snap it to the nearest note. And if it's a really quick signal, it will just do what it can with it and then move on. It's always just processing any signal that's coming in a split second. It's just a shame that, yeah, when we slow it down and look at it, we can tell that it is auto-tuned, and the auto-tune is actually changing the notes that Raul would have been singing live to what it thinks is going to be the right note. But in this case, it's wrong. We have another phrase coming up where auto-tune's engaged, and again, it is putting in a note where one didn't exist. And there it is, the F4. So this would have been a slide up. I'll take that again back so we can listen. It would have been a slide there, but the auto-tune has put in an F4. We'll listen to it slowly. So auto-tune is turning the voice into a piano. That's effectively what it's doing, mechanically processing that signal and turning it into notes. So that slide, it's changed it into that rather than the smooth slide. And that's the problem when you're just applying auto-tune to a whole vocal and trying to engage it and then disable it. This is where things get really interesting, because with the breakdown and the vocal now really being up front, there's no auto-tune enabled. But then it's just abruptly switched on at the end. And maybe have a listen to this. See if you can tell where it's just been enabled again. But this is actually natural, which is great because we get to hear Raul's voice as it was on the night.
I just come to say I love you. I just come to say how much I care. I just come to say I love you.
I mean, amazing range, but as you can tell from the change in the vocal waves that we've got on screen here, you can tell that something's been switched on again because we're now just going directly over these lines. We're just sticking to them here. But previously, if I take this back, we can see how Raul's voice was allowed to go where he wanted it to. So here, we are flat of the note, and then he's flat of the note again. Let me just take this back so we can hear it.
Just come to say how.
And then we're actually really sharp of the B3. We're just directly between notes here, which auto-tune will never allow.
Much I care.
And again, here, the wide vibrato. If you were to run a line through the middle of this vibrato, we would be between notes. But this is the whole point, that it still sounds good. It sounds great, and he's between notes here. And that's why as soon as notes start getting snapped to lines and to 440 Hz tuning, it starts to sound so mechanical. And if I just let it play on.
To say.
We actually got a semitone in there again, so that would have been a slide up. Another note that wasn't in the original performance. Let me take that back.
Just come to say.
To say. We had a semitone run up there instead of to say. And this is something that happens all the time in vocals. You slide say from the note underneath, just stylistically. And that's definitely what Raul's doing in this performance, but the auto-tune is doing exactly as it did before. It's making steps out of a slide. We are going to jump into the instrumental section and the mouth trumpet solo, because if there is an argument for auto-tune, then I would say this is it, because you want it to sound like the instrument. It already does, but I think this is absolutely fine. So here, on this E4, this is exactly what you would get from an instrument, from a piano, from a trumpet, from a guitar. So this is where I think stylistically you could argue, yeah, use auto-tune, because that's exactly the sound that you're going for. Just to throw this in at the end, if you didn't know, Raul's actually blind as well. So you might have watched that performance, not even noticing it, but that's the kind of level of ability that he has. And a great performance here. It's just a shame that we don't get to hear that original vocal, because I'm sure it actually sounded better than the auto-tuned version. But this is just sometimes something that we've got to accept, that live performances then get post-processed and somebody opens it up in Logic Pro 10 or whatever DAW they're using and starts to apply a little bit of auto-tune and pitch correction here or there, and then the audio gets re-released in the video with the DVD or on YouTube, and it's now not as it was. So it is a bit of a shame, but thank you guys for requesting this video for me to take a look at, a bit of an investigation for tonight. Keep those requests coming in the comment section below. As always, let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!